All right. Hi, everybody. Welcome to Tiff Talks. It is Sunday, May the 10th. And we are actually recording the show the day before so that we can make sure that everyone gets the opportunity to enjoy their Mother's Day. So this is our very first pre-recorded show, and we are excited to welcome our friend back to the set. And I'm sure today is going to be a very interesting topic. So just to kind of open up, on April the 22nd, I posted my Wednesday wisdom, as I do every Wednesday. And this particular Wednesday, the post read that evolution involves elimination, with the caption, "Change versus evolution, do you know the difference?" And I kid you not, there was not one like on the post in the first 24 hours. And I really kind of went back and forth on, was it too much? Did I go too hard? Did people not understand what I was saying? Was it just too powerful for people to understand? And I even reached out to my partner, and it was just crickets. Like, she ain't answer the phone and nothing. So I was like, okay, let me step back and let me process it. So I processed, and then finally I was like, no, it's not too much. Is that this is a topic that needs to be discussed, and it needs to be discussed in an open forum, because honestly people may not understand the difference. So that's how this particular show topic came about. And our guest for today is definitely a friend of the show and a fan favorite, and really my accountability partner in my head. Every conversation that we have had, it leaves me in a state of critical thinking, and it leaves me with so much incitement and just excitement, but also insight. So I wanted to make sure that she and I had this conversation, because I knew that she would bring so much to the table. So I want to make sure that as she's introducing herself, that you guys also get your notepad and your pen, so that you'll be able to jot down some notes, because I'm sure it's going to be some insight shared today. So Tenique, if you would go ahead and introduce yourself to our talker audience.
I am Tenique G, and I'm very, very happy to be here. She gives me so much credit when I just open my mouth and talk sometimes. So, I'm happy just to be here in positive spirit, positive setting. It's wonderful, wonderful feeling.
Yes. All right, and she's downplaying everything, but I'm sure I'm going to pull it out of her in just a minute.
Yeah.
So, audience, you guys know that this is an open forum, and that means that we want you guys to chime in, to include your questions, your comments, and your insight in the comment section below, and I will definitely address those questions and comments, at a later time. And make sure that you are using the hashtag #KeepTalkingChange and Evolution. So, as I mentioned, I really kind of get the picture that people don't understand what change is versus evolution. So I think it's important to really open up this discussion with defining change versus evolution. Tenique, how would you define change versus evolution?
Okay, let me know. Okay, so change, I think change is more like directly happening. You're not really thinking or it's just kind of happens all at one time. And you're becoming something different, you're doing something different. It's just different. It's just today, like night and day. It's just flip-flop night and day or whatever. So it's abrupt. Okay, evolution is the accumulation of change over time. So it's gradual, and it's done with more intention. So
I like that. I like that. Evolution is done with intention. That's really good. When I think about change, I think of just what you said, is something that comes about as being different. And I also always kind of equate change to more so of behavior or a character kind of difference. And when I looked up kind of change in the dictionary, it said to convert, to exchange, for one or another, or even instead of. But when I looked up evolution, it was more so the process, like you said, of growing or developing. Now, granted, both change and evolution shares a synonym with that being transformation, but when it comes down to the synonym for change, the first word that popped up was distortion. And I was like, okay. But when I look at the synonyms for evolution, it says process, progression. So I think when most people think of change, they think of more of a behavior thing. Like I said, something that's associated with character, something like you said that's is abrupt. It happens all of a sudden. Versus when it comes down to evolution, it's something that happens over time. Something that is more of a progressive type state. So with that being said, my question is, when you think of change versus evolution, is it better to change or better to evolve?
You really can't do one without the other. Of course, to evolve is to change. So you have to make those changes, but I would say evolve. Like I don't want to do anything just for like right now. It has to be long term for me.
Right. I like what you said about evolution being something that's more of an intention. When you say intention, I think of something being done with purpose. And honestly, I agree. Like, you will want a little bit of both in your life. When it comes down to change, of course, there's some toxic or bad behaviors or some bad traits, character about ourselves that we want to change. Versus when it comes down to evolution, I feel that's something that I've done over time. For me, I said, like, going into 2020, I was not forcing relationships. And by that, I mean not forcing relationships with family, friend, or foe. Like, I'm just not gonna do it. And it happened suddenly for me because I realized I was putting too much effort into maintaining relationships, that I no longer wanted to be in a state where I was giving so much of myself and not getting it back in return. And although it happened suddenly, where it was like, I'm not gonna do it anymore, it was also something that, like, played into ongoing things of continuing to be let down in relationships, where I was like, you know.
Is it that, and not to cut you off, but is that maybe your standards were set too high? Sometimes we can just set our standards too high. Like, we want people to do what we would do for them, but in actuality, that's just not who they are.
And I think it's crazy because my daughter and I had this conversation earlier today over lunch, and we were talking about just kind of random stuff going on with her peer group and her circle. And I was explaining to her, you can never expect people to be to you what you are to them. But I think it's important that people give you, or people show you their heart. So, for instance, I can't give you my heart. You won't have the same heart that I have. You won't be able to display the same attributes of your heart that I display. But there's pieces of your heart that makes you aware or knows that you're a priority. And in some relationships, I just was not a priority. Not that there wasn't other things that were going on. Everybody has, like I say, shit going on in their life. But I'm a strong believer that people make time for things that are a matter of importance to them. So for me, it takes nothing to pick up the phone. It takes nothing to send a text message. And after so long of feeling like it wasn't mutual, then I was like, you know what, I'm not forcing it anymore. So for me, I feel that I've evolved as a friend. And in my evolution as a friend and not giving as much or forcing those relationships, I've seen other relationships in my life that I may have not been paying as much attention to evolve over time. People that were showing up and were giving me pieces of their heart, I've seen them evolve over time and give me even more of a substance. So I feel when it comes down to evolution and change, you change, like you said, depending on what state of life that you're in, but also depending on what's going on in life too. So that's just my take on that when it comes to relationships or friendships or even like evolving over time. And I think when it comes down to just us as human beings, we're at an ever-evolving state.
Always.
And being at that ever-evolving state, we take on many different roles. We have different roles that we're placed within and that we're positioned to be. So just as women, we're born into this world as daughters. We grow up to be women. We are put in a place or positioned to be a wife or a life partner. We're blessed to become a mother. And then thereafter, we may go on to become an employer or, an employee and things of that. And with those different things, how do you feel these roles that we take on or position to become, how does that play into one's own evolution of themselves?
It would just honestly kind of goes back to how you were brought into whatever position it is. And again, it's starting back from childhood where that change starts to take place. So you pay attention to the generations, your mother and your grandmother, and you see how they did things. And then now I'm going into being a mother. I was a mother first before an employee, so I start there. I was a mother first, so my change started to take place early. So I took kind of some of the things that my mom did, and I changed them. Like I fixed them and altered them to what fits like today's day and age. But basically, like the roles, it really just depends. It really depends.
I think I agree with, like you said, what you're born into. I took on the role as a mother kind of early on because I had my daughter when I was 19. And I too took some things that I learned from my mom, but I always say I was born into community. And I feel that's why I raised my children in community, because that's how I was raised. So it wasn't just my mom, but it was my mom and my aunts and, uncles and things like that. So it's some things of how my aunt may have parented I took. And that's what plays into how I parent now. When I became a wife, I didn't necessarily see marriage growing up in my own home, but I saw it at church. So I took how I saw my first lady and my pastor love each other, and I took how I saw my aunt and my uncle love each other. And those are things that, have played into my marriage. And a lot of times when you say, those are things that we start out as and we're ever evolving, some of those things then don't necessarily apply now, and I've had to take and alter and re-alter, refine, restructure those things to fit the state of what my marriage is now and the mom that I am today. Because, being a mom of one is one thing. Being a mom of multiple people, it's
hell.
It's just a whole different picture.
Yeah.
It's just, I tell people all the time, people that got more than 2 kids, 3 kids, especially if it's boys, you gotta check on them. You gotta check on people that got 2 or more boys, because I be needing checked on, for real. But those are the roles and kind of like the evolution that I feel that we've grown into. Now, I may be a little bit biased because I am a woman, but I believe as women we are dominating this evolution thing, and that's because I feel that we take on so much as women. We're positioned to do so much as women. Now, don't get me wrong, our male counterpart, they bring so much to the table. They bring a lot of value to the table. But when it comes to women, we play so many roles, not just in our lives, but in our community, in our home. And I mean, I kid you not, my husband is very present. But when I walk in that door, when I walk in that garage, I not only become mama, I become teacher, I become cook, I become playmate, I become buddy, I become mentor, I become driver, I become shopper. And that's within the first hour, But that's the role that, we take on. And that's after I've worked all day and I'm paid to do much more. So I think when it comes down to these different roles we take on, it's where we are in our life, but it's also as we continue to evolve and we're required to give much more of ourselves in different settings.
See, it's really, really funny though. And I'm so happy this got there. I'm kind of dealing with this lately. So, and I'm an open book. I'm an open book. If I've ever gone through anything, I'm going to openly share whether it makes me look bad, good. I really don't quite give a damn what people think of me. So, kind of where I am now, women seem to be expected to do things. And it's kind of like, no, bruh, that's not right. Like, we're expected. We haven't quite evolved. We're still kind of stuck in some of the old ways. Like, we're expected to take care of the house. Like when you walk in, you become these things. No, you have a mother and a father. So if we want to be equal everywhere else, we need to be equal at home too. And it's not a burden. I love my man. But if I'm here and I'm busy and Dad's here and he's not, I'm going to close the door. And it's not to shut them out. But it's basically we need to be equal. We need to pay the bills equally. We need to have the logins equally. We need to do everything equally, because it's not fair to have the expectation, because I'm a woman, that I have to do these things.
You're right.
It's just really not fair.
And
we're given sometimes the more feminine things when that's not, like, I can go and put IKEA furniture together at the store. Well, that's probably more so given to a male. Right. So I still think evolving, we're still kind of stuck behind. The world is still stuck behind somewhere. We don't get the credit as women. Like, we're more than just cooking breakfast, going to work, putting a little few dollars in. Like, our minds are so, like, untapped. We don't get the credit.
I feel it goes both ways, where we have to put ourselves out there more, where we set that expectation that we're due the credit, but also that we assume that for ourselves as well. So many people don't have that value, or have that self-value, or have that self-reflection within themselves, where they're able to say, I can do this and so much more. And because I can do this and so much more, I'm owed that, Right. Because I can go to work and maintain a full-time job, contribute to the household, take care of the kids, cook and clean and all that I'm owed that much more. Right. So I'm owed I have just as much power as my male counterpart, and I'm owed just as much credit. Right. So I feel it's something that we as women have to put out there, but we also have to set that expectation for that as well. Because until we do, we will always be looked at as that counterpart that's in this box. I've always said, when it comes to my career, I never want a glass ceiling. So for me, anytime that I've gotten comfortable in my career, or it looked like I've gotten comfortable in my career, I've pushed myself to go harder to do something else, to break down barriers in a dominating field. And I know I'm completely biased about this. And I bring this up because it came up to me today. In this pandemic, so many people are saying, like, essential workers are doctors and nurses. But as a social worker, I'm an essential worker. Right. And I say that because my role has not changed. So I'm still going to work Monday through Friday. I'm still on the front line. I'm not at the bedside providing nursing services, but I'm still meeting with families. I'm still doing discharge planning. I'm still connecting the dots. And it's kind of heartening to our profession when we don't get that credit. But it's for us as essential workers to put that out, so people wouldn't know that, because sometimes people just don't know. And if you don't set that expectation, then you can't expect people to give back what they don't know.
How do you say those things, or even initiate that, without people thinking you're arrogant? Because I've had people tell me, "Oh, you need to be more humble," or you kind of arrogant, or you're a little stuck up. I'm like, first of all, you don't know where I've been. You have no idea. And right. If you feel that from me, well, then I deserve to feel that way. Like, I literally came from nothing. Yeah. And so to be where I am, which I'm nowhere near where I'm gonna be, I'm gonna tell you that. Like, I'm gonna stand in your face and I'm gonna speak to you. Right. Like the damn boss that I am. Yeah. Because when they see me, they think, I walk in. If you don't know me, oh, she quiet or whatnot, and it takes for me to open my mouth. Yeah. And then that respect is demanded. Yeah. But I want the respect with the friendship. And it's hard sometimes. I get the respect, but it's more so I'm respecting you because we're part, or we're doing business. And so I can't separate the two. So I need some help.
You need some guidance.
I need some guidance with that. I need some change. I need to make some changes in that department.
I feel like one thing that I've learned is that I've built a reputation, and I've said and put myself out there enough where my reputation precedes me. So the more that you put yourself out there, and the more that you demand and command that respect, the easily that it will be offered.
It's not I can get the respect. It's the, the whole zero sum, you don't have to like me, but you're going to respect me.
Yeah.
I want you to like me too. That's the part that I'm struggling with, is to like me too.
But remember, everybody is not going to like you.
True.
And them liking you or not liking you has nothing to do with them. I've learned that.
Yeah.
People liking me or disliking me has nothing to do with me, but everything to do with them. Because as long as my reputation precedes itself, as long as you can respect me, you liking me or don't like me, we can work on that later. Because I guarantee you, once they get to know you, once they have had a piece of your heart, had a piece of you, and they know that it's coming from a genuine place, then they can like you later on down the line. I want you to respect me first.
Yeah.
Let me walk in the room and you know who I am, or you've heard about me and know enough about me that you respect me enough.
I guess it's the hurt, like you said, the hurt about. I want you to hear about me and the piece of my heart too. So I know I have some work to do. Delivery.
You have some evolution.
Yes.
To take place.
Yes.
Well, one thing for me, and we kind of touched on this, living in this kind of double standard type world. And living in this double standard type world, there's so many things that our male counterpart can get away with. Mm-hmm. And we as women get. And I think, and I've said this a couple of times before, the Michelle standpoint, I struggle with it.
What's this? What's the Michelle standard?
The Michelle standard, like, when they go low, you go high.
Oh, God.
I'm
when
not.
They go low, I go up under them.
And I'm not good at it. I'm not good at it. I mean, I'm not good at it because when they go low, I just go. Like, I've learned in my lifetime is some things that are not worth my energy and not worth my time. So when people go low, I just go. And I say that because a lot of times people feel that, like you said, according to these gender roles, that we have to sit back and be silent. Mm-hmm. But my question is, do you think at any point, that there's strength in silence?
Oh, yeah. Now, I'm not a silent person, so when I'm silent, I have spoken.
I like that.
I have spoken. Like, when you're silence, okay, so I'm going to take it in two parts.
Okay.
The first part, silence is a sign of respect. So if I'm listening to you and I'm letting you, you speak, you get whatever you are, I'm respecting you, and then I'm also, I'm taking in and processing everything you say. When you're not silent and I'm talking over you, then there's nothing there.
Yeah.
We're not going to, that's all communication.
Right.
So, hold on. Give me a second, because I really enjoyed this. Because I tell that to people all the time when people talk. So I've been doing like my little thing on Thursdays because it helped me to I got some going on. So basically I'm saying when you're speaking and I'm speaking, we're never going to hear each other.
Right.
Okay, so the second part is basically silence is a very powerful answer. So whether it's good or bad, I don't have to, like you said earlier, I don't have to reply when you say something. I can sit here and I can give you a facial expression that will kill you on the inside. So, yeah, it's very powerful. Yeah. Don't say anything sometimes, and like the kids gonna run.
I agree. I remember when you say the kids are running. I remember, like, as a child, my mom like had a look that could kill, and I think still to this day, as an adult, if she gave me that look, I probably would. I mean, I'm a whole adult. I got a whole house and kids and a husband, but I probably still flinch if she look at me like that. But I feel that there is strength in silence, and that is because, like I said, over time, I've gotten to a point where there's just some roads, some bridges that, while I'm being silent and I'm processing, like you say, what's going on around me, I'm weighing the cost and the reward. And if it's rewarding for me to speak, if it's rewarding for me to say or to give back or to even give the time or the energy, then okay. But if it's not worth it, it just ain't for me. So that's why I go. That's why I go. But with the Michelle, it's something that I, like you said, as a person, I'm still working on and evolving and trying to get through and get to, because it's a struggle for me. And I think that is because when it comes down to society's interpretation of strength, it wavers on change versus evolution. So how do you feel society's interpretation kind of wavers on change versus evolution?
I just gotta keep on going back. We have not, society has not evolved. We're still teeter-tottering with the gender roles. That's where I kind of went back on that. When I read that question, I kind of met a stumbling block, because I'm like, we're stuck. And we're not going anywhere fast. Even if we demand it, it's gonna still be the societal norms for the women versus the men, and it seems like there's no way to get out of that.
I think what we need to do as a generation, or as a women, as a gender role, and what I've seen and what I commend our generation is for tackling these biasness, for tackling these barriers. And that's something that, we've seen done in the 1950s or 60s, how they were combating injustice. But we here, our roles, or our generation is at a point where, if you don't want to give us a seat at the table, we'll create our own table. And that's what I see us as a people, as a generation, evolving. And that's something that I think our interpretation of strength comes into play, because we understand that there's strength in numbers. As education, as awareness is more accessible to us, and as we're seeing things like the movie that Nia Long played in, it was on Apple TV. And they were talking about how in that time they had to put on this face, or they had to associate with this Caucasian man in order to get into the real estate market. They had to put on to get into the real estate market, but their wealth of what they're establishing, it was theirs.
Right.
And by our generation being exposed to those things, we're breaking down those barriers. We're evolving into a people that will create our own, if you won't give us or welcome us to a seat at the table. So I feel we as a people, we have a ways to go, but having a ways to go is, like you said, us continuing to go. And I appreciate that about our generation, to us being able to continue to go. Now, at the end of every show, we always ask that our guests will share their testament. So the one thing that, after all that we have shared today, what would you like our audience to take away?
Change is definitely mandatory, but evolving is a lifetime. It's going to take a lifetime. You're going to be forever changing.
That's good.
And if you're not willing to change, then you're going to always be stuck in this box.
Yeah.
So, my mom, and like, we're just growing up, even in church, I always heard, like, if you always do what you've always done, you always get what you always got. You have to do something you've never done in order to get something you never got.
Right.
And it stuck with me as a child, because in order to make any moves in life, you have to be willing to change.
Right.
Had I been still working, and I took that, change is faith. Like, straight out the box, change is faith.
Yeah.
If you don't have any faith at all, there's no way you can change in no aspect of your life. So definitely strengthen that faith. And just go, like, the sky is the absolute limit. And always be willing to make that step.
I love that. I love that mantra, to be able to understand, if you never do anything different, you'll never truly have that change or that evolution in yourself. When I was kind of going over my show notes and I thought about my testament, my best friend and I both started talking about the transformation of the butterfly, and how, when you have this butterfly, they start out as a caterpillar, and in the life cycle of the butterfly, you go into this cocoon But coming out of this cocoon, you transform or you evolve into this beautiful creature. And this beautiful creature then becomes free and is able to fly and be able to do all and see all. And for me, my change and my evolution is something that I want to outlast even my own personal being and body. So that's why I go so hard, because I want, when I'm dead and gone, my children to understand that my evolution and what I put into my evolution is outlasting for them and their children and their children's children. Because if we are not evolving, if we're not living for something to outlast us, then what truly are we doing? You know, you're just living to die. I mean, you know, so I feel that there's value in change, but we have to truly understand that change and that evolution is something that has to outlast yourself and outlast your being in order to be inevitable.
Yeah.
This was good.
I enjoyed it.
Yes, me too. Me too.
Yes, I enjoyed
And I am sure that you guys enjoyed it as well. And you know, this, like I said, was our first pre-recorded show. We'll see how things play out. But moving forward, Tenique is going to be back with us on the 24th as we talk about power moves and power circles. And in that, I'm going to make sure that she give y'all all her good, because this was just a little bit of the good.
You didn't get all my goodies.
I mean,
not all.
not all her goodies.
$40 at least.
But the good in her business, and the good in how she has overcome and created her legacy and continues to build her legacy that's gonna outlast. So we will be talking about power moves and circles on the 24th, and believe it or not, the entire month of June, our top partner Kenneth is gonna be taking over. So he already has like a special Father's Day that he's going to be doing. I think I'm going to be coming back at the end of the month, but he is going to be taking over the month of June, so I'm sure you guys and gals will love that. I want to send a very special happy Mother's Day to everyone. Please enjoy this day and this time with your loved ones, with your mom, with your mom figures, with your aunts, your uncles, with your godparents. Happy Mother's Day to you. And she actually brought me a gift for Mother's Day, so we're gonna chill this too, and we're gonna make sure that we put it on some ice tomorrow. So thank you guys for tuning in. Make sure that you like, share, and repost this live feed. And make sure that you tune into our YouTube channel. Hashtag Keep T Talking for the YouTube footage, because all of the footage is there as well. And we will see you guys again on Sunday, May 24th. Keep talking.